Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week, you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. We're staying right here in Colorado, and we're going to meet up with Stephanie View. And Stephanie is a lady that decided she wanted to know where her meat came from. That's right, she was a vegan, and she said, what's this whole story? And so she started hunting, and people on Facebook and Instagram and other social media channels helped the young lady to find out, here's what hunting is and here's what it isn't. And she got along with Steve Walls from Shield Mountain, and Steve and his crew out there were really instrumental in helping her understand uh, the ins and outs of hunting. And so she took to the woods this fall, and no, she didn't harvest anything, but she learned some lessons. And one thing about Stephanie, she's bagged, as they say out in Colorado, 19 of the 14ers. So I would say she's in pretty good shape, and she's got a drive and a passion that she wants to learn how to hunt. And a lot of people have stepped up and said, "Hey, we'll help you along the way." So sit back, relax, and enjoy Stephanie Vu. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and I'm with Stephanie Vu. Now, who the heck is Stephanie Vu? Well, she's a young huntress that has journeyed into the world of elk out here in Colorado, but more important than that, she's one heck of a fine lady. She's an attorney, and she has a handle on social media called Calo Breeze. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bruce. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you because we met up on social media, and you said, well, I don't hunt much. I said, you hunt though? She said, yeah, I'm just starting. And what a wonderful gal to have on the show, because a lot of gals out there wonder, how do I get started in hunting? So let's start right there. How did you get started in the outdoors?
Yeah, so at first, I've wanted to hunt before, but I was honestly afraid of guns. I was afraid of bows and didn't think it was something I could do, but I've always wanted to know where my meat comes from. And so that was really important to me. And I thought it was very important as a way of respect to the animal to know exactly where it comes from and be a part of that process. Um, and then, and so a couple of years ago, I signed up for a biathlon rifle safety class because I saw when I was cross country skiing, I saw someone with a biathlon rifle, and I thought that looks really cool. So I thought I would just try it out, and I didn't realize that it was a real 22 rifle that we would be shooting in the class. So in the morning there's a safety class, and halfway through I thought, why are they talking about this like it's a real gun? And then it dawned on me that I would be shooting a rifle in the afternoon. So in the afternoon we went out to the range. I shot my first gun, and it was not a big deal. It was a lot of fun, especially once I started hitting the targets. And then from there, I just kind of progressed. I started shooting shotguns, and then my fiance, now husband, wanted to bow hunt. So I thought that sounded really interesting, and I thought I could do this now. Like before, I didn't think I could hunt because I was never shot anything, and then now that I had done it, um, I just thought, yeah, like now is the time to get started. Like let's do this. So that's kind of how I entered into it.
Well, okay, so your husband was a hunter, but nobody else was, and so you got into biathlon. Did you meet any hunters in that group?
Yeah, so my husband actually doesn't hunt, so we are learning together. Mostly me learning all of it and then teaching him. And in biathlon, there was one person that I did meet, like towards the end of the season, of the first season that I did, and he definitely helped a lot. He was also a precursor to all of this, so he told me to sign up for a hunter education class. And then that was another way that I just kind of hopped in. And so I met him and then another guy that bow hunts, and they both were just very encouraging, just told me to practice a lot and offered any help that they could to me. So I definitely met a couple people in the biathlon community.
How about social network? Any help there?
Oh yeah, definitely. So since me and Alex we knew no one, we didn't know anyone that hunted nearby. We have a couple of friends that back in Texas that hunt, but we didn't have anyone here, especially for elk. And so I definitely turned to Google and Facebook groups, and they've been a really big help. So on Facebook, that's where I met Steve Walls, who has been such a great mentor to me. He's taught me a lot about elk, and he's been really encouraging. And it was one of his emails where he said, I think you could hunt safely this year if you practice every day. That I kind of just took that and ran with it. And so I practiced almost every day with my bow to go from, I started at a 20-pound draw weight and ended up at a 49-pound draw weight in about 3 months, and then just learned everything I could about elk before going on my first hunt. And so, yeah, definitely like the Facebook groups. There's Colorado Elk Hunting that's helped, and then I think Colorado Bow Hunters Association was another one. And then more recently, I found Colorado Women Who Hunt, which I just started getting involved with them, and so it's been really nice to have a group of other women that hunt that I could ask questions to.
Yeah, the point is, listeners, that there's a lot of people that are more than willing to come alongside you. You have to reach out though, and Stephanie decided to reach
Definitely,
out
yeah.
and touch base with people because people aren't going to come to you. And if you sit there and go, "Well, nobody's helping me," well, help yourself. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. And I remember reading on a lot of the posts, just most people would say like, hey, like have a unit picked out and have questions. And I didn't have a chance to, but I wanted to go talk to CPW and just have all my stuff ready. Like it was a lot of work just trying to narrow down units. But I would create spreadsheets and try and figure out what unit I wanted based on the type of hunt I wanted. Um, and yeah, it's definitely a lot helpful to have a lot of the, I guess, groundwork, so to speak, um, done before you start reaching out and asking questions.
No,
And it definitely is.
what type
Mhm.
of bow do you shoot?
So I have a Diamond SB1 Edge, and so it's a beginner friendly bow. So it has a draw weight from, you can set the draw weight from 7 to 70, and you can also change the draw length. I forget what the range is on the draw length, but it's pretty big.
What type of broadheads?
Right now I have Muzzies. So they're Trocars and MX1s. I like the way the MX1 flies a little better. It kind of flies more like my field tip, I think. But they're also the first two broadheads I ever bought, and I was at Cabela's, like with four different ones in my hand, and I had no idea what to get. And so someone there helped me out and said these work to the Trocars and the MX1s.
That's great. Now tell us a little bit about your elk hunt over Labor Day. You went a couple of different places, and one place wasn't so good, but the next place you got into some sign. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so over Labor Day weekend, we hunted kind of like two different areas. The first area was around Craig and Hayden. So there was more juniper, sagebrush, lower elevation. The second place we hunted was Rabbit Ears Pass, which is higher up, closer to like 9 or 10,000 with aspens and spruce, and a lot of like marshy lake areas. And they were both areas that we had scouted a couple of weekends beforehand. And in the Rabbit's Ear Pass area, we had scouted about a couple miles off the road, and that's where just through scouting, I learned so much about my boundaries as a new hunter, and kind of forced me to think a lot more about where I can go and what my capabilities are. So we went out a few miles for rabbit ear scouting, and we found a cow elk, some moose, a bear, turkeys, lots of things. But where we found the elk was about 3 miles steep. It was kind of tough to get back there with just all the down trees and up and down. And it really made me think, can I actually hunt back here for my first hunt? Just thinking about spoilage and how hot it was and having to get it out. And so when we actually hunted Rabbit's Ear Pass over Labor Day weekend, we didn't go as far. We tried to stay closer to the road, about a mile or two off the road, and we found a lot of fresh stuff about 2 miles off the road, but we just couldn't actually find the elk themselves. But it was really exciting just to find signs of them, which is really cool because I wasn't expecting much for my first hunt. So that was really exciting.
Yeah, we talked about in the warm up how, um, you know, uh, you've been a hiker, you and your husband have been a hiker, and you bagged some 14ers, and you do that off trails. But elk sometimes will walk up a trail, but most of the time they're where they want
Yeah,
to be. So how does that work?
right. Yeah, so me and my husband, when we first moved to Colorado about 4 years ago, we were both really into well, I was really into hiking, and then he eventually got really into hiking with me. So I've done 19 14ers. My husband's done about 15, and I mean, they're tough and they're mentally tough. Some of them, especially like once you get into more class three, it's a lot of fun. It's physically tough. And so with that background coming into hunting was a lot of fun just because I was so used to having a peak and that was my goal and I was going to get to the end and then I turn around and I go back to the car. But with hunting, we were just wandering around looking for sign. We just look at the map and think, hey, like I want to check out this area or like I want to check out this spot. So it was really different. It's really cool. I've definitely observed a lot more just walking. Even when I'm hiking, I observe a lot more just kind of looking like, oh, I wonder what's been around here or what would come around here. And so I feel like it's definitely with hunting, I feel like I'm a lot more immersed in the woods, which is really cool. And it's definitely different. We learned the hard way. I definitely thought, oh, like I hike 14ers, like I can hike 5 miles off the road through the woods. And that was not the case. Bushwhacking versus hiking on a trail are two completely different things to me. It was a lot tougher than I thought because I definitely, in my mind on rabbits here, I was like, oh yeah, like we're gonna go like 5 or 7 miles off the road. It's gonna be no problem, and it was really tough.
It's tough for us all. And
Yeah.
Cameron Hayes is hunting right now, and he's left
Oh yeah, yeah,
a journal. But it's hard for Cameron Hayes. It's hard for anybody. There's no, we're not limited. Yeah, the best shape you're in, maybe the further deeper. But when you start crawling across those matchsticks and they're, all crossways, and you got to
oh
go through
yeah,
a field for a half a mile, you're going, why am I doing this? I mean, you know, you're
yeah,
doing
yeah,
to get to that aspen patch up on the hillside
yeah,
or the wallow or whatever. But
yeah,
it's a workout, and people don't understand that. In my world, of the whitetail world, some guys will get after it and get deep, but most of us don't have to because we're hunting farms. We know what's
gotcha.
on the farm. But
Yeah,
I challenge everybody to come out and, they talk about these mudders and the Spartans, climbing
yeah,
and roping. Just go elk hunting with, with a good elk hunter for 10 days.
right.
We'll see. We'll
It's
see.
tough. Yeah,
We'll see if you end up standing. I
yeah,
just
and
laugh at
with
that. I really do because so many people, oh, you're just going elk hunting. If you do it hard, it's it's a lot of work. I mean, there's no secret
yeah,
to that.
definitely.
It's just a lot of
And
work.
on
Good.
Rabbit's Ear Pass, when we found a really nice game trail that was like practically like a very small hiking trail, and we were gonna try and catch it on the way back out. And when we couldn't find it, we were so sad because it was such easy hiking on that really nice game trail. And when we finally found it, we like marked it up on our map to make sure like we knew exactly where it was next time we come out. So
Yeah.
because it was just luxury hiking on this game trail
Yeah, let's talk
versus
about
trying to
that
traverse.
because some people don't
Mhm.
realize that elk are habitual, a lot like white-tailed deer, and they have trails from here to there, from bedding to
Mhm.
feed, bedding to food. Let's talk about why game trails exist and just how big they are.
Yeah, they're pretty substantial. I didn't realize that they would kind of be all over the place or as defined as they were when we found them. And there was a couple of game trails where we were able to find some elk droppings and tracks, and so we would try and follow that until it kind of fizzled out. But yeah, but at least with what I've been taught and read online is that I've gone to a couple of clinics that Colorado Parks and Wildlife have put on, which have been really great and really helpful. They really targeted to the new elk hunter or hunter in general. And those have been really great. And one of the things they taught us was that the elk generally have their spot where they want to feed, their spot where they want to water, and then they have their daytime bedding or coverage in the thick timber. And then during the day, sometimes they might have to come down and eat again. And so they kind of follow. There's I forget how big it was. They said maybe like a mile or a couple miles where that they travel between throughout the day and the night. And so if you can figure out where they're going, you can set up pretty well on them. But they have, and one of the things that they told us to look for was really established game trails because there are some spots where it's like a highway of elk and they all know about this easy passageway, especially through Aspen, and that they like to travel through the Aspen because it's not as thick, but it still gives them coverage.
All those are true. And we talked about why you're hunting. Could you explain to the listeners why you chose to be a huntress?
Yeah, so it started actually a while ago for me. I was actually a vegetarian for about 2 years. Um, because I wanted to know exactly where my meat came from. And it was really frustrating not being able to figure out where it came from. And then also, eventually, I wanted to be a part of the process. I wanted to take responsibility for taking my own animal. And to me, it was the most respectful way that I could eat my meat. And so, um, that was kind of how I came about to wanting to hunt. And then it was just a matter of learning how to shoot a gun. And like we talked about before, like I was afraid of guns, so I didn't think I could do it. And then once I got into biathlon, that really opened the floodgates for me.
That's great. What about the goal that you and your husband talked about? About it's not just in bagging a peak, a 14er, but it's actually hunting an animal and taking that animal so you could eat it.
Yeah, yeah. So like with 14ers, the goal is always like getting to the top of a peak. And so it's a lot different when the goal is trying to get an elk because we have to it's it's so much more immersive to me because I'm learning all about the elk. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about their home, their habitat, about their what how they act and how they react. And like I didn't realize when there's a full moon that they would be out and about at night and then less active during the day. And just trying the goal of trying to get an elk is has just been so immersive. It's a completely different challenge for me, and it's been really great and just a tough one. I guess like it's been a tough challenge for sure, just trying to find them and figure out where they are. But through that, it's really forced us to kind of like slow down in the woods and really look around us before I think I joked that on 14ers and before I started hunting, I'm horribly impatient in the woods. Like I have to go, go, go. I like to be on the move. I like to go somewhere. I like to get to the peak and then I like to come down and everything is just like, we're moving, we gotta go, we gotta get it done. And with hunting, it's really forced me to slow down and really look around me and literally smell things around me, trying to smell where the elk are or what's around me. And so that's been a really good lesson for me and something I've learned through hunting, especially elk, is just really to slow down, look at everything, and just try and be a part of the woods and try and think like an elk.
That's a lot of good wisdom because some people they want to get to that next ridge when they'd be better served just putting their butt down and glassing that next ridge to see what's moving rather than get over there and hope to see. Because with the glass we have today, optics we have today, you can see miles, literally miles, and elk are
Right.
way big enough, to show up. I'm not talking about bunnies or even coyotes. Deer you can still see, but elk are way big enough, you can see them a long way away. So if you know kind of sort of where they are, then you can plan a lot better rather than just putting miles and miles and miles, on your boots, which I've done, you know, in my
Yeah.
early years. And one, I can't do that anymore. Two, I don't want to do that anymore. And three, I'll get as high as I can. I'll be elk hunting this weekend for the last part of the season, and I've got a 12,000-foot ridge that I'll be up in the morning. No, I won't hunt elk in the morning unless somebody gets stupid and comes right up the saddle beside me. But none the case. I'll know exactly where they're bedded, and I'll be there. Between them and food or water or their wallows by mid afternoon. And so my odds are increased tremendously because one, I know where the elk are. Can anything
Right.
happen? Yes, the wind can change, hunters can come through. I mean, there's a gazillion things that can happen, but I've narrowed it down to where, okay, that's where they are. That's where they're bed because you watch until they don't move anymore. You put it, you map it, you GPS it, however you want to do it, and then you start meandering down. And one thing that's happened to me hunting that way is all of a sudden I'll run into another herd of elk. And if I'm walking slow enough, I might have an opportunity. I might have an opportunity to call them. Hopefully, I don't bust them, which I don't want to do. But anyway, there's a lot of dynamics that go into that. And that's what I tell younger hunters. You know, yeah, you can go 10 miles today, and you can come back. Oh man, I had a great walk. How many elk you see? Well, I heard some. Because we're elk hunting. We're not hearing hunting. We're elk hunting, and that
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's the goal. Let's talk about the community acceptance. How you've been accepted in the
Yeah.
hunting community.
Yeah. So, the community's been really great. I was at the beginning, I was definitely very hesitant to kind of start hunting and thinking like, oh, what are other hunters going to think of me? I've never hunted before. I don't have a background in hunting. My family doesn't hunt. I don't really know anyone that hunts, except for a couple of friends at home. And so I was really nervous to kind of enter into the community, but I've been pleasantly surprised and at how helpful people are, um, especially like especially with like elk calling and learning how to shoot a bow and just learning how to get out there. People have been tremendously helpful, especially when I reach out, with more like specific questions. And definitely like after for me, like I learn a lot better when I'm doing it. So for me, it was really important to get boots on the ground and just walk around scouting and getting real hands on. Um, and the amount of people that have been helpful, just pointing me in the direction of where to go look and kind of what I should be looking for, has been really great. And Steve even went over Labor Day weekend. Steve Walls and his family lives up in Craig, and he came out with me one morning to help me hunt. And that just like blew me away that, this someone who has years and years and years of bow hunting experience, has his own company making elk calls, would be willing to take me out. and show me how it's done one Saturday morning. So that was really cool. And I feel like most people I've met have been like that, just always willing to help, always willing. It seems like people are excited to see new hunters, especially new women hunters, in the field. So I've been lucky and thankful that everyone's just been really helpful to me. And I definitely would not be as far as I am in my experience as I would be without all that help.
Let's give a shout out for Steve right now. So his name, his company, and how you can get a hold of him.
Yeah, so Steve Walls, he's in Craig, Colorado. He owns and runs Shield Mountain Outdoors elk calls, and they make elk calls. I think they make predator calls right now too. Um, and his website, you can find him. You can find him on Instagram, Facebook, and his website. And his Facebook, I think, is Shield Mountain Outdoors, as well as his website, www.shieldmountainoutdoors.com. And then Instagram is a little different. It's SMO Outdoors, I believe. But yeah, but Steve Walls and his family have been super helpful. They hand make the elk calls in Colorado. They were the first calls I had. I tried out several different other calls after that, and came back to them because their calls are really comfortable in my mouth. And then Steve has been really helpful. I mean, so I'm on his um, field staff team right now. But even before that, I would message him being like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, it's making really squeaky noises. Like, what do I do? And he
Do you
would
have your
take the
calls
time
with
to
you?
help me.
You have the calls
Oh
with you?
no, not
Oh,
right
come
now.
on.
I know I think they're at home. I used to carry them in my purse, but I took them out for hunting.
Ah,
So they're in my backpack now.
yeah, but we want to hear you go.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any. There might be one in my car, but it'll take me some time to
Well,
get
folks, we didn't know I was going to ask Stephanie to do that, but cow
it.
calling is a science in itself. Bull calling is a science in
Yeah.
itself, and you create a language. 'Cause some of my calls sound like nothing you'll hear on the radio or the CD or the they don't use cassettes anymore. So on YouTube or whatever. But guess what? I've called hundreds of elk and had close encounters with a lot of elk, usually my own voice. And that's the only thing I'd say about elk calling. Find your own voice and stick with it, and just make it your own voice, and you'll know what I mean once you start doing it. Because Stephanie has her own voice. She says, "Well, it sounds squeaky, and it sounds like this. It doesn't sound like you do." Well, you're not supposed to, because guess what? Elk don't sound like every other elk. They all have their own voice. And once you realize that, you're going to be a lot more successful, in my opinion. Let's talk about the mental part, of hunting in itself, not just elk hunting, but the hunting experience. What you have to go through. I know you're a trained attorney. I know you have a lot of stress in your life, and you have to be on your game all the time, and so the mental
Right.
toughness is there. So, what about hunting?
Yeah, some hunting definitely has presented its own set of mental challenges. And I think I, since I have not yet had the chance to actually shoot anything yet, but I've read a lot about target panic, and the mental aspect of steadying your shot, especially when there's a humongous elk in front of you, not that far, especially with bow hunting. And I've definitely prepared myself a lot for that moment. Whether I'm prepared enough or not, we'll find out. But I think it's definitely an important aspect of hunting, of anything, um, that that takes time just to kind of sit through and mentally think like, okay, if an elk comes in, I know my setup, just trust myself, knock, pull back, anchor, make sure all of my steps are there. And I definitely go through those steps a lot. One of the things, so I took a biathlon clinic with a guy that was on the national biathlon team. And one of the things that he really stressed was visualizing your moment when you come into the range and you come down and you shoot your 5 targets. In biathlon, there's 5 targets. And he really emphasized mentally going through that over and over and over and always mentally thinking about it in a positive way. Like you never think I'm going to miss one and then hit four. You always think you're going to hit all five. And I think that's something that I've really kind of taken with me that I think I can apply in hunting as well and think visualize my shot, visualize the way the elk's gonna come in, visualize releasing and not thinking I might miss, but thinking it's gonna hit where I want it to hit and just learning how to trust myself.
Yeah, and through muscle memory, that'll happen. There's no question about it because as soon as you draw anchor, boom, it's gone, and there's no question where that arrow is. Yeah, things can
Yeah,
happen. A twig that you never
right,
saw, it can be there. The wind switches and it just twists a little bit. I mean, and that's hunting. That's the reality of hunting. You can
right,
do everything perfect and it still doesn't work out. Doesn't mean you didn't do a good job. Not at all. You
right,
did everything right, but um, other things came to play, and that's the way it is. And everybody will miss. Everybody will hit high or hit low. I mean, everybody, and put from Jim Shockey all the way down to Bruce Hutchin at the bottom of the
right,
at the
right.
feeding pad. No, and truth. I mean, you think about all these guys, you hear about them, and or gals, Tiffany or whoever you track. Some of the great gals I know in town, Lisa Thompson and Donnell Johnson from Hunt Data. I mean, they hunt hard. They're great hunters, but stuff happens, and that's the biggest thing that
Yeah,
I would like to.
definitely.
I would like to share with you. You can do everything right. You can have the positive affirmation. You know exactly where that bull's going to come in. You know your shooting lane. You know everything. You come back, you shoot, and it doesn't happen for whatever reason. And
Right,
and that's hunting. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I missed. I didn't do this right." No, you did everything right. It's just something
right,
happens, and you got to accept that because it's a fluid thing
exactly.
out there. There's no set rules. I wish there were.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
biathlon, there's 5 targets. You're gonna shoot 5 times, and they're not gonna move. I mean, they're there, so it's all on you. And I get,
Yeah,
and I get that part of it. But when you put one target that weighs 800, 900 pounds, and he's just between two aspen trees and wind filtering a little bit, and there's some brush that you just really don't see. But at 300 feet per second, that little brush, bink, you're done. It goes underneath them. And you go,
right, right.
what the heck happened there? And you go pick up your arrow. There's no blood. There's nothing. The bull's gone. You go, how did I miss? And then you go back and do the forensics and you go, oh, I killed the twig.
Right.
Yeah, I've killed
Right,
trees.
and I
I mean,
think
I'm not proud of it, but I've killed trees. So I would just share as somebody new in the business, even though, it's positive, everything's going to happen. There are sometimes that it's not going to come together and nothing that you did was wrong. You did everything right. And that's just hunting.
definitely, and it's right, and I think that's something that I'll definitely um have to learn through experience and just when that happens and it doesn't all come or I've done everything I could and it's still either I hit a twig or I wound an animal. It's I think it's even or I think then mentally it's just gonna I'm gonna have to learn to forgive myself almost and realize that like you said, this is hunting. It's not it's there are things that are just completely out of my control that I'll just have to learn to accept for sure.
Yeah. And I can think of one place in New Mexico. I literally screamed. It wasn't quite primeval, but I screamed because, I just hit him too high and we couldn't find him. And I just
Right.
I just screamed. The guy's looking at me. I said, whatever, because everything was right, but it wasn't right.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's definitely like, as a new hunter, it's another one of those things that is eye opening to me or that I'm learning that I could do everything perfectly, and sometimes it's just not going to happen.
Right. And when you get there, having this discussion, and I talk to other people about it, and to say, how do you handle that? And because it does happen. And so you just
Right,
find, prepare yourself for that moment. If someplace down the road, you might shoot five animals. I mean, perfect. You're just double lugging them, and they're they're down, they're dead, and everything's cool. Then you come to the sixth one, and something just doesn't go right, and you go, "What's up with me? Nothing,
right,
absolutely nothing." And of course we want to take ethical shots. I mean, I'm putting all that stuff away. This is, where you know that you're going to hammer that sucker, and it doesn't happen. All right, let's move around, and let's talk about the fact of hunting in Colorado for women. Where do you think that is?
I think we're doing a pretty good job here so far. I would love to see more women hunt. None of my none of my close friends right now hunt, but I think it's definitely um, I think having me being their friend as one of their first friends hunting is really helpful. Sorry, sorry, my laptop is about to.
Yeah, we're gonna take care of our power outage here, folks.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay.
Power's good, Stephanie. Power's
Yes.
really good.
Now it's good. Now it's back. Okay. Sorry. So your question was, where is
Yeah, where is
Colorado
women
in
hunting
terms
in
of women?
Colorado? Right.
Yeah. So I think Colorado has a fair amount of women hunters. I think I mentioned the Facebook group Colorado um, Women Who Hunt, where I'm pretty new to it, so I haven't met a lot of people, but it seems like there's a lot of great girls in there that have experience, kind of come from the same background as me, have never hunted before, kind of taught themselves or learned pretty recently within the past 5 or so years. Um, and so that group has been really nice. I'm looking forward to being more involved with them and going on hunts with them. And um, in terms of Colorado, I think also CPW has been doing a lot of outreach, trying to get more women into hunting. They have clinics that are women only. So I know sometimes, at least like for me, sometimes I think I'm like really tough and I don't care, but it is a little intimidating coming into a room where I'm the only woman and kind of thinking like, oh, like are people looking at me like, oh, what is she doing here? Like, why is she hunting? So, and it's definitely been helpful to have someone like my husband who wants to learn how to hunt, so he comes to all these things with me. And yeah, so CPW has a lot of stuff going on. And I think even just like my friends, I think a lot of them were kind of not okay with hunting, didn't really want to see it, didn't really like it, but since they've seen me kind of get into it and see that I'm practicing a lot, it's not just like, oh, like I want to go kill things and like I'm like really bloodthirsty. They see like, no, like I'm practicing a lot. I'm trying to respect the hunt, respect the animal. And I think for them even it's opening their eyes a little bit like this isn't something that I'm just like doing for fun or not just for fun, but like that I'm just like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna go kill something. Like it's more than that. It's getting out into the woods. It's being a part of the woods and conservation and that it's a big deal. Like it's definitely something I take very seriously.
Well, thanks for that. We're at the time of the show. You get a chance to give some shout outs. I know we've already given one to Steve Walls. We took care of Steve pretty good. I'm going to give it a shout out because for our Go Hunt Insider, you said you were a member. So utilize
Yep.
Go Hunt Insider for the best research in the West. So go ahead, Stephanie, and talk a little
Yeah.
about friends and neighbors and people who help you along the way.
Yeah, definitely would love to get a shout out to my husband, Alex Fame. who we joke is my personal photographer, because pretty much all of the pictures on Instagram of me are taken by him, unless it's a self timer. So definitely shout out to him. He's also been extremely supportive. He definitely has been there for me, taught me, encouraged me to learn how to shoot a bow. Comes out with me to the carport every night to shoot in our carport. And just always been there for me. So shout out to him. And then also Scott Schmidt, who is also part of the field staff for Shield Mountain Outdoors. He has been really active in our Facebook group, and he would post all of these tips about how to shoot better and just different habits to pick up on and to become a better shooter. And I take all of his suggestions and write them down and use them. And I think that's really helped me become a better shooter for sure. And so just shout out to him, and glad he's around to mentor me in my shooting. So, yeah.
Anybody else?
Lots of there's a couple of attorneys also partners that hunt, and they've been also really supportive and excited for me. One of them has been really helpful in just trying to get me into deer hunts and antelope hunts. I haven't gone on any yet just because of the timing has been bad. But he's been really supportive, really excited that I'm getting into hunting, and so yeah, there's Wade Johnson here at my firm. He's been really excited, and then also Russ Manning at another firm that I used to work for. They both have been really supportive, really excited for me.
Well, Stephanie Vu, it's just been a pleasure to have you on the show and sharing some insight, both from the top of the 14ers, but better than yet, in the nasty stuff where bull elk and cow elk hang. And I can't wait to see where your career goes, your hunting career. Obviously, you got a great legal career, but your hunting career, I look forward to seeing that continue to develop and you continue to get more and more confidence, experience, and go out and get your first bull.
Thanks, and thanks for having me.
Hey, folks, we're heading down to Tennessee today, and we're going to connect with Brandon Dowdy. And he is the coast of Southern Woods and Waters. Now, if you live in Tennessee area, you've no doubt seen him on TV. And he started off there as a guest for the work he was doing in management of land and some landscaping in the Tennessee area. Well, he and Hugh McGaughton get together, and it wasn't too long that Brandon is the co-host. Brandon brings a lot of insight into whitetails because he went to Texas Tech University in wildlife management. So he's got the whole package, and better than that, he's funny as heck. And he's going to tell some whitetail stories that'll have you rolling in the aisle as I was when I did the show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Brandon Dowdy, Southernwood, and
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.